Welcome to Southern Cooking Made Simple. Easy to understand recipes, cheap, simple, and you can make it on the fly. Today I'm going to take you for a trip through the Appalachian Mountains and show you how Grandma used to make chicken and dumplings. I first boiled one chicken breast in water, chicken bouillon, salt, pepper, and butter. Then I took the box of stovetop stuffing and I added black pepper, 1 egg, chicken bouillon, and some water, and I let that sit until it absorbed that moisture. And then after it set, I took the chicken, cut off the nasty part of it there, where it's got that cartilage, and turned that into a little pocket down in there where I can place my stuffing inside of my chicken, and then I'm going to put that in the oven and bake it. When I was young, I used to go to my grandma's house, and she used to always make chicken and dumplings on Sunday, and that's when we visited after church. We'd go up to grandma's house on the hill, and she always made chicken and dumplings in a big kettle on the stove. She would go out in the yard and get a chicken and wring his neck. Now I'm taking some salt and pepper and sprinkling inside of the cavity generously, and then I take the stuffing and just put the handfuls in there, as much as will fit comfortably. The egg is the binder, and all the spices and seasonings in there. I kicked it up a notch with a little bit of chicken bouillon, egg, salt, and pepper was all I used. Then I'm going to put those in the oven with a little bit of buttermilk on top and bake those. This is just a simple dinner made out of some things that I put together real quick. Something simple, delicious, and then I could share something delicious from Grandma's house with you guys today. I love to cook like my grandma did because she just used what she had. Now these ingredients are simple, and just put as much in there as you like, and if there's any left over, just put it out on the pan, make a little loaf out of it, and bake it up. It was delicious. Doesn't take much buttermilk, just enough to splash on top. Now, in a regular bowl, I have a little bit of flour. I used 2.5 cups because I doubled the recipe, but I'm going to give you the instructions for one batch. And this is 1 1/4 cups of flour, 1 egg, 2 tablespoons of oil, salt and pepper, and 1/4 teaspoon of poultry seasoning. The oil holds them together. The egg will make them rise, but it won't make them stick together. They just all fall apart. If you don't put the 2 tablespoons of oil in, then your dumplings will just all be mush. If you like it mushy, some people do, but I like the dumpling to be whole and still have the moisture in there to use the broth as a gravy. Now I'm just making up my flour mixture with buttermilk and water, and I just mix it up till it's the consistency of a biscuit dough, because I'm going to spoon it out. If it's see there, mine was a little bit too runny, and I'm adding a little bit more flour, and that'll make it stick together good. You want it to be, like I said, the consistency of biscuit dough, and then I'm just going to set that aside. Now let's get started on the dumplings. I have my chicken broth and everything boiling, and I have everything ready. That was my poultry seasoning. You put in just a little bit of poultry seasoning, about a quarter to a half of a teaspoon in your broth and in your mixture. And that 1/4 teaspoon of poultry seasoning adds so much flavor and zest to this meal. It just reminds me of going to Grandma's house when I was little. Okay, now you can see the consistency of my flour and water and buttermilk, and you can see that it's about the consistency of if you was going to make biscuits. So all I done was put the chicken over into a pan, and now I'm working on the dumplings. Now you want your mixture to be sticky and almost like a dough ball, flour to cut them out. Now those are my potatoes. I'm adding some salt and pepper and a tablespoon of butter, bringing those to a boil. That's about 4 medium potatoes. salt and pepper, 2 tablespoons of chicken bouillon, and 1 chicken breast. And I'm bringing that up to a boil, and I'm going to simmer that 15 or 20 minutes until that chicken breast is just done. Now in this pan, I have new potatoes out of the garden, and I just peeled them, cut them up a little bit, and put them in water with about a tablespoon of butter, salt, and pepper. And inside of my dumplings, it's a really simple recipe. It's nothing but flour, self-rising flour, buttermilk, egg, salt, pepper, and these types, but only 1 egg. And I mix that up real well, and then I'm letting that sit and proof for a little bit while I'm bringing the chicken and dumplings up to a boil. Now, the meat. When I'm bringing that chicken up to a boil, I want to, as soon as it comes to a rolling boil, I'm going to turn the heat down and just simmer that lowly for about 15 to 20 minutes. It was a pretty big sized chicken breast. I'm all cooked. You're seeing just little tiny bubbles. And I'm going to let that simmer until I come back. And then I will show you the next step in making Grandma's chicken and dumplings. The chicken boiling, I'm going to start the green beans on this burner. In my pan, I've got 1 onion, small, chopped up, a little bit of bacon fat to that. A shortcut so I don't have to fry bacon. Put about a good tablespoon. And I've drained the juice off of my green beans that I canned up. And when you caramelize the onion, then it's time to put the other stuff in. Now, since this has been boiling 15 minutes, stop my timer. Take out my chicken breast. And I don't like that goop right there, so I'm gonna remove that. It's just blood. Blood and fond, but it has to come out. It makes your dumplings kind of mealy, and they have a different texture. Just take out the funk. And then I'm going to shred that chicken breast. Now in my pan, where the chicken breast was boiled, turn that down so they won't boil over. Just to a slow simmer there. And what I'm going to do is just take the flour dumpling mixture that I mixed up earlier and drop that off in spoonfuls. Big ones and little ones stick together. You can make dumplings without oil, but they won't stick together. Not even if you put an egg in there. I'm just saying. Now, once you get them dumplings dropped in there, you don't touch them. You can turn your pan like this, make sure they're not sticking or something. You don't touch them dumplings. They fall apart. So I'm just dropping them in, and they'll make their own way down in there. Set there for the timer 10 minutes off of a lid and 10 minutes on with a lid. Now if I touch them right now, even though they're going to have to go in that pan, they'll fall apart. And it's beginning to caramelize. See the brown in there? That means caramelized. And I'm going to put in my green beans. And my full coffee cup of water. Black pepper. And about a half a teaspoon of salt. On top of it, just the way you had it, that's how you put it in the oven. The buttermilk is acidic and it actually starts to cook the chicken before you ever put it into the oven. And it makes it very, very moist. And what we're going to do is cook this until the dumplings firm. Two more minutes and 17 seconds and my dumplings will all be shaped and formed and I won't have broken them. This into this big pan, which I'm going to go ahead and heat on super low. You cook them 10 minutes with the lid off, and that sets that dumpling in there. And then you cook it 10 minutes with the lid on, adding the chicken back. So what I'm going to do is put the chicken that I've chopped and broke in little pieces back into the pan. Half a cup of milk. And bring that up to temp. Now the green beans just have to cook to the consistency that you like. If you're making fresh green beans, it'll take them a long time to cook, but if they're already cooked out of a can, then you only have to cook them about 10 or 15 minutes and they're done. So I'm gonna turn these off and let them just sit there. The dumplings have got 8 seconds, so I'm gonna turn them off. And I'm gonna transfer the dumplings now over into my big pot. And I've got the chicken and dumplings on their way. I need a lid for keep them warm. I'm gonna put in about a tablespoon or so of butter and a tablespoon or so of milk, because there's water still in there off of those potatoes. You don't want to add too much moisture until you see how much water is going to drain out of those potatoes. I'm going to pour the renderings off of the sour cream and put in about a quarter of a cup or so of sour cream. And I don't want them completely mashed yet. I just want to mash them up kind of good because we like them lumpy. These are potatoes out of the garden and they are so good and velvety. They're yummy. I'm going to put in a little bit of the broth off of the potato for moisture. And if you like them completely mashed, mash all of them. But we like ours a little bit lumpy down in there, so onion. I can put in there. I love green onion. It just adds a flavor that you can't get anywhere else. It's just something my grandma cooked with, and my taste buds took a liking to it 10,000 years ago, and here I am, eating raw onions every day of my life, because my grandma did. Fantastic. The dumplings still have 5 minutes and 3 seconds on their boil with the lid on. And when you check them, you just do them like this. See down in there? They're perfectly formed. Oh my God. I love dumplings, y'all. Yeah. It's right there stuck together. Oh my gosh. Okay. Now, put all this stuff up. I'm going to put a dollop of sour cream in them dumplings just to make them real good and rich. Probably a quarter cup. Into the, I'm going to use about a half of a cup of cornstarch. And I'm dissolving that in cold milk. Takes a lot of cornstarch to thicken up a big old pan. And I'm going to pour in my slurry. Stir once and put my lid back.